Hello everyone. Today I'm going to tell you about the cyber resiliency regulation as consequence of increase in cyber attacks and more particularly of European Union DORA. I am Anna Borga, Worldwide Product Manager for Mainframe at Hitachi Vantara. Let's go through today's agenda. Firstly, I will talk about the reason behind the need for cyber resiliency regulations. Then I will tell you about DORA's aim and who is affected by DORA in European Union. Lastly, I will tell you about implication and requirement for companies. Let's take a moment to understand the background. In today's world, one of the multiple threats on economy is a cyber risk. The cost of cybercrime is estimated to be 11.5 trillion US dollars this year and up to just below 24 trillion US dollar in 2027, according to Statista. We recently have seen state-level cyber attacks with multiple coordinated denial of service, as well as critical server data encryption launched at the same time. As an example, Costa Rica, Peru, and Vanuatu has been victim of that tendency. Due to financial interconnection, a failure in one of the financial institutions may propagate malware across borders to become a worldwide attack. States and governments are taking action under the format of regulation or laws in order to prevent from massive attacks that would affect countries' economy, if not worse. Europe did initially take actions under the format of huge fines to force the companies to comply. USA did also take decision with even more after the Colonial Pipeline cyber attack, as it was deemed to become a national security threat. State of emergency was declared. Following US law enforcement and federal government authorities has been notified of the attack. US administration issued an executive order directing US government agency to take a series of proactive steps to bolster cybersecurity. Europe has set up various regulations for each country with different targets, which could artificially make a distortion in the competition inside of the European Union. The latest episode was adoption by European Parliament of a new law, the Digital Operation Resiliency Act, also called DORA, which is going to one step further, specifically focusing on information and communication technology to make the law across Europe. Not only cyber criminal, but also third-party provider can be source of issues. On January 11th of this year, 2023, 11,000 domestic flights were grounded or cancelled due to an incident related to an issue with the Notice to Wear Missions (NOTAM) system, which provides pilots with real-time information about changes and potential hazard on flight routes. The lack of system availability meant all domestic flights were temporarily grounded for 2 hours while the system was restored. Initially, it was mentioned that a critical file for that system was corrupted by 2 subcontractors. However, it was determined that contract personnel unintentionally deleted files while working on correct synchronization between the live primary database and the backup database. Okay, with that as our background, let's look specifically at DORA and its implication for companies and their compliance. DORA aims to protect the European financial system by maintaining resilient operations through a severe operation disruption. It does address information and communication technology related to disruption and threat. In fact, core aim being preventing and mitigating cyber threat. This is a requirement for all European Union member states and those concerned conducting business in the European Union. DORA goes beyond traditional rules as as it is addressed to financial institutions with large definition, meaning but not limited to banks, insurance company, investment company, cryptocurrency asset, blockchain technology, but applies also to suppliers and service provider, to financial institution, network provider, and so on. So the scope is very wide by company impacted, but also by the fact that there is no distinction between a small and a large company or very large company. Now that the DORA scope has been explained, let's talk about impact of this legislation. DORA has several pillars to cover. DORA is a framework for which company will have to comply with. The various number of different requirements will imply some organizational changes for financial company, but will also imply changes in the incident management process currently in place. Incident reporting format will be unified across European Union. Failure to comply to DORA will imply clearly defined fines. Let's talk about the first bullet, information and communication technology risk governance and framework. The management team responsible for information and communication technology risk management and their role needs to be clearly defined. Critical and important functions are clearly defined as well as responsibilities and associated risk. The governance team should have a holistic view of all information and communication technology, application dependency, providers, and third party. And this should also be documented. Rules and specific activities are clearly defined in order to minimize impact on market and on consumer of an incident. There are several processes that must be in place in order to identify risk and issues, prevent these risk and issues, protect against these risk and issues, detection of issues, valid answering plan to an issue, resume normal activity after an issue, involved people needs to be adequately trained, maintain, improve, correct the action plan over the time, well-defined crisis communication channels, and last but not least, all employees must attend specific DORA trainings. The second bullet, information and communication technology, incident management, classification and reporting. This is about streamlining incident reporting. Incident management team should have a centralized incident warning system which allows to have a rapid incident investigation and an action in place to mitigate the impact. Breach report can be used to detect unknown intrusion in network. Incident classification have to comply with DORA classification built on specific criteria. How many end users are affected by the incident? Duration of the incident? Area concerned by the incident? Data breach, data loss? Impact scale on the information and communication technologies? Criticality of the affected system? Financial impact? Also, major incident must be declared to the authorities the same working day. Next bullet is intelligence sharing. All cyber attacks incident report declared to the authorities must be in a specific common format. They will be anonymized and compiled to be shared with the entire community in order to improve the resiliency, as bad actors are likely to target many organizations of the same industry at once, so awareness may help industry to be better prepared. The information sharing target is whole Europe financial institution, which means above 22,000 companies. Supply chain management, risk management for supplier and service provider. DORA imposes requirement on financial institutions to set up appropriate control and supervision of their providers. They will have to compile an exhaustive list of their providers and what service they are provided with. This list will be handed over to authorities. Every year, modification will be provided to authorities. This has an impact on contractual relationship with supplier, which can go up to breaking the contract. Before closing a contract with the provider, a risk assessment must be conducted to evaluate security threat from this supplier, monopoly risk, risk with third-party providers of that company, existing relationship. A substitute strategy will have to be in place in the case of identified risk. Major provider will be monitored by authority on a yearly basis to evaluate criteria like availability, business continuity, data integrity, physical security, risk management framework, governance, reporting, portability, testing, and so on. Should there be a provider being proven not to be compliant, they would be fined. Audit access. The DORA regulation enables regulator and financial institutions in case of suppliers to perform audits throughout the supply chain in the financial industry. This helps to drive compliance but means that organizations must have the ability to generate on-demand reports. Resiliency testing. In order to validate the efficiency, every 3 years, the most critical entity will have to perform a penetration test, which is of the type of red team, done by an independent company which has to be based in the European Union. The penetration test script must be approved by the authorities first, and certificate will be delivered by the authority in case of successful test. In order to identify and correct any issue before real incident strike, based on risk assessment, all company will have to set a complete test set that will include evaluation testing, testing methodology, practical testing, tool testing, and so on. Retrospective incident analysis. DORA promotes sharing incident reporting in order to learn from the other entity's experience and failure to improve company policies rather than relying on the individual experience. The aim is to prevent same type of organization to be victim of same attack where this could have been prevented. Thank you very much. Do not forget about evaluation.